Yeah, sorry I'm a little late there. I was finishing up lunch. Uh, or dinner, I guess you could say by now. Welcome to the special birthday weekend live stream of Mr. J's Geek Corner, place where we talk about anything and everything that is geek, whether it be TV, comics, movies, or video games. And this past, just this past Thursday, a couple of days ago, was my actual birthday. um, and everything been so busy last 2 days, I thought today would be the best day to do a live stream. But yeah, this last week I turned 40, and that's definitely a big thing for me. and it's been a busy last couple of days. Like I said, and when I had had a blast the last couple of days, and it's been tiring to say the least. It's been tiring, but it's also been fun. So yeah, me and my wife did a lot of fun stuff last couple of days. One day we went, the other day on my actual birthday, we went off to the museum and went to the science museum and had a blast there. Got to see some dinosaurs, and that's I had never been to a museum before where we got to see dinosaurs, and it was fantastic. I mean, it was just I felt like a kid going in there. I was like, I all these years I'd never been anywhere near like real dinosaur bones, and it was awesome. I mean, it's just I loved it in there. I mean, I took so many pictures and everything. It's just so awesome seeing actual dinosaur bones in person. It's all around. It's just awesome, an awesome experience. I mean, it was just so much fun in there, and I would love to go again one of these days. I mean, it was so much fun in there seeing all that. Yeah. And as they had so many interesting things there. They had animals there. I mean, they had displays of animals there, but they had actual animals there too. But the best thing about it to me was seeing the dinosaurs. I mean, it was just so cool in there and everything. And yesterday, we went off, did some shopping, had lunch with my parents and all that and everything. But it was, like I said, it's been a fun, busy couple of days. And like I said, I said, they say you turn 40, you only turn 40 once, so you got to make a big thing out of it. I said, you only turn 40 once. Um, yeah, but the last few weeks though have been they've been doing a lot of things. They had a big movie marathon and all that, like a lot of my favorite movies and everything, and um, a lot of things going on in the world of geek too. But I'll get that in a second. Um, I mean, there's been a lot of like I said, a lot of stuff going on in terms of geek stuff, and like I said, Buzz has been doing like a lot of movie marathons and everything, and I finally and like I would say within the last year or so, I've actually kind of, I guess you could say, I kind of broke my boycott of Marvel a little bit, but in my own way. I mean, I don't. I said, and that is just buying the movies used, and that way the money doesn't go to Disney. So you still get to see. So I'm still getting to see the MCU, but to see what in the world they've been doing, but not giving a dime to Disney. and and I finally saw a week or so ago. I finally saw Captain America: Civil War, and I'm just going to say this right now: it seeing that movie validated so many of my views of things. I mean, if anybody's seen this program as back when I basically just it was more of a rant than anything, but they know that I basically had my faults with. I mean, I started boycotting Disney because of the fact that it felt like that DC was getting sabotaged, and basically it had been sabotaged, and well, look what's happened to them now. I mean, you see what in the world's been going on with them last while, and um, I mean, with like the Snyderverse and everything like that, and just and you get the feeling that they purposely sabotaged that so Disney and Marvel could stay on top on purpose. And so they could just stay on top, and they just purposely just sabotaged anything because they know DC was going to be too big of a powerhouse to go against them. Well, by seeing this movie, I can say without without a shadow of a doubt and the utmost confidence, I was right. I was absolutely right. They sabotaged DC for this movie, particularly for this movie, because the fact that I said just by watching this movie, there is so many notes in this movie that is identical to Batman v Superman, and even to a point, Justice League. I mean, there's so many notes in this movie. It's like almost watching the same movie. I mean, it's just, there's a lot in it. It's like note for note, but same thing is Batman v Superman, with only one little bit of difference. Batman v Superman did it better. DC did it better than Marvel did. I mean, it felt like that. And to me, Civil War felt like an inferior movie to Dawn of Justice. I mean, it really did. I mean, it just, you got, think about it for a second. In Batman v Superman, what started off the whole thing of the government coming down kind of on superheroes, or particularly cracking down like Superman and stuff, is an incident in another country. And almost in another country that he comes in, he does something, but something else happened involving a villain that gets, and they don't know it at the time, actually comes, it actually makes him look bad, but they don't know it at the time, but it's actually made to purposely make him look bad. And just get him in trouble with the government, try to get the government to regulate what he's doing. And then you come in Civil War, and the whole thing is some operation where they're trying to, or the Avengers are trying to stop a guy named Crossbones, and they're trying to stop him from doing something. So there's another warlord type situation, and he sets off a bomb. He tries to, and Scarlet Witch tries to stop him from blowing up, and her powers kind of go out of control, and it blows up a bunch of folks with a bunch of Wakandan delegates in there trying to discuss peace and trying to just discuss peace with the nation they're in. And it's like a bunch of goodwill ambassadors from another country. And what ends up happening? Superheroes end up looking bad, and the government steps in to try to regulate what they're doing. Only in this one, they actually do the whole Superhero Registration Act that they're trying to basically name after what happened in the other Avengers movie involving Ultron. And then you have it's essentially the same thing. Only in Zack Snyder's movie, there is no Superhero Registration Act, but they're like a millimeter away from introducing that into that movie. And the fact that and to me, the fact that these movies are so much the same thing. I mean, for crying out loud, even in this movie, you see this scene between Tony Stark and Spider-Man and Peter Parker. To me, it mirrors what they did with Barry Allen and Bruce Wayne in Justice League. And it's the same thing. It's essentially the very same thing. And so it's just with they basically have this whole thing of like they're trying to. It's like Tony Stark's trying to bring Peter Parker into the fold, and it's just like with Justice League, when Bruce is bringing Alan into the fold and form a team. And it's the same thing. And it's just like why basically it's, like I said, it's about the same thing. And to me, and the reason I say I was right, and it's like you said, it's the very same movie. And you know how the folks can play dirty business in mess, and how corporations can play dirty pool, and just to any way to stay on top. And to me, the way this looks, they wanted to do it for they saw it. I mean, and even more so from watching Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, it's the same deal. I mean, from what I've been hearing online of what Zack Snyder's original vision for Justice League was going to be, it was supposed to be a 5-movie thing. His DCEU was supposed to be a 5-movie thing. And by the last 2 movies, I think they were going to be like a Justice League 3 and a Justice League 4. Darkseid was supposed to, from what I've heard online, Darkseid was supposed to get an anti-life equation and get control of Superman and transform the world into Apocalypse, essentially. And what they said for the next movie was that the Justice League was going to go back in time and prevent him from turning Superman from getting turned into his lackey. And basically what he does is sacrifice himself to fire and to keep Lois from dying, because Lois was the key, to basically go back in time and stop Lois from dying. And instead he throws himself in front of the Omega beams. He dies, and it fires up Superman to fight on instead of just breaking him. It fires him up instead, and the whole world comes together and destroys Darkseid and his hordes. What does that sound like? That whole deal sounds like the plots to Infinity War and Endgame, because that's about the same thing that happens in that movie. Thanos gets his anti-life equation and wipes out half the life in the universe, but in a more inferior, toned down way. All he does is snap his fingers with the stones, and half the life in the universe disappears. And then you get to Endgame, and he basically just and they basically go, what do? They use the quantum universe, whatever, to basically time travel back in time and find all the stones again and use them to bring everybody back. And in a very, like I said, instead of like with Batman sacrificing himself to fire up Superman and prevent Lois Lane from dying, he basically what the Avengers do is they just go back in time and snap everybody back into existence and bring them all there to the battleground. Bring them on into the battleground and have them face Thanos. And by the end of it, and of course at the end of it, yes, they did actually. I correct myself. They do have the Batman sacrificial thing in here, in which Tony Stark gets all the stones and he snaps his fingers and destroys the villains himself, and he dies in the process because of the strain of using the stone. To me, that's the exact same thing as jumping in front of Batman, laying down his life to basically stop the world from getting stop Darkseid from breaking Superman, essentially, and killing Lois Lane. It's the same thing. It's all the exact same thing. And as I said, to me, that justifies my theory. That even more justifies my theory that Disney and Marvel know they were going to do this. And they know they were going to they're both putting out the exact same thing. So what does Marvel and Disney do? They play dirty pool, behind the scenes shenanigans, sabotage DC, and have even from the inside, have DC sabotaged their own movies? Have Disney used the media to sabotage the movies? To change everybody's perception of it? And have DC even sabotage their own movies and butcher them and mess, and you end up with something, and you end up with a badly done product that was a good product, but turned out not being because of shenanigans. And what do you end up with? You end up with DC in the dirt, getting put down by folks for being a bad movie, while Disney's over there earning billions and billions of dollars, putting out the exact same movie, but not nearly as good as what DC was doing. I mean, if you look at them side by side, it's the exact same thing, but Disney has it lighter in theirs. Theirs is lighter. It's more of a supposed lively, more. Even though it's dark, it still has more of a. It doesn't feel the same. It has the same. It have different reasons for why this is happening. Why that they try to have different reasons for that. Like with Darkseid, I mean, you look at Darkseid wants to add to the life equation because he wants to take over all life in the multiverse. He wants to subjugate all life in the multiverse just because he wants to rule everything. Thanos wanted to do everything because he thought he was being this intergalactic humanitarian by wiping out half the life in the universe for almost humanitarian kind of reason. I was like, what kind of reason is that? That goes, I dare say, it even goes against what Thanos is in the comics, because in the comics, Thanos is doing this because he won't. I mean, you got a hint of that in the first Avengers movie when they're talking about to try to go up against them is to court death, and he gets this grin on his face. And that's his motivations in the comics, because he wants to court death. He has a fixation with death in the comics. He wants to court death because death in the comics. Hello, Tavia. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for the birthday greeting, man. It's good to have you on here. Good to see you. But as I was saying, his comic book motives is that like in the comics, death is a physical being. It's the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper is a female in the comics, but he wants to court her. That's why he wants to wipe out half-life in the universe, because he's trying to get death's attention. He has a fixation with death. But in the movies, they have to come up with some kind of lighter. They don't want to be so dark and all that stuff. They don't want to be so dark. So they have to come up with this, like, well, maybe it's for humanitarian, it's for a greater good and everything. It's like, that is completely and totally against what Thanos is. And that's why that, to me, is why the Marvel movies are inferior to what DC was doing. DC was more in line with the comics. I know they try to say, oh, Superman's too dark and grim and all that. It's like, you got to build to him being the epitome and icon of truth and justice and hope and all that. You got to build to him being that. He can't just be that right off the bat. He's got to work his way into it. That's what that's what a lot of folks don't understand. He can't just jump into being Christopher Reeve flying around getting cats out of trees all the time, and he's it's just like, it's a completely different iteration in DC. That's why, and it's just a different vision, and they've got to bring the light into DC. It's the only reason it's dark is because they have no hope really yet. And they have to bring the light and the hope to DC. And that's why, that's why the Superman don't really start. I mean, the one bringing light into his life and hope in his life is Lois Lane, and having his mother there and having his wife there. That's what brings the hope and humanity into Superman anyway. And it's got to bring more of a light and a levity into it. I mean, and as I said, to have Darkseid kill her would break him and make him more suggestible to the anti-life equation. But to have Batman have a friend lay down his life, it would fire him up to make him fight on. And as I said, it was more in line, to me, it's more in line with the comics. It has more of a heart to it. I mean, they have moments in there and it's just like, I mean, it's just like dead on like comics, but at the same time, it's just like, this goes completely against what this character's about. A lot of what these characters are about. I mean, the fact, the villain of the whole thing in Civil War is Thunderbolt, is Secretary, I guess he's like Defense Secretary, Secretary of State, I can't remember right now. Thunderbolt Ross, the Hulk's main villain. The one that's been trying to hunt the Incredible Hulk for years, he's the main villain of the whole thing. And who comes snipping at his heels as a sickening sycophant but Tony Stark? He has been a little worm ever since after Iron Man, after the first Avenger, he turned into this little worm that was looking any excuse at all not to be Iron Man anymore. Any excuse. Trying to make him obsolete by making robots and then all this, and then when they start these whole accords and everything, who's their first supporter? Him. Saying, oh, we have to have, all of a sudden we have to be held accountable for all this and everything. He ain't been hardly held accountable for anything in his life. And all of a sudden everything he does now is just like everything that went wrong in the Marvel Universe, in the MCU, is because of him. Everything all the way to the end, when he sacrificed it, that's the only way he completely made up for messing up everything. Is they sacrifice himself to kill Thanos and everything, and to make everything right. That's the only way he made up for it. The rest of the time, he won't know like Marvel's greatest villain. The whole time, not mention a henchman to Ross. And to me, it's like, why did anybody even like him? And I'll just repeat that. It kind of went offline. That Winter Soldier killed his parents, and he knew about it. And suddenly, that's the hi, Adrian. Welcome to the live stream. Hi again. It's just like that. Suddenly, his motivation for hating Cap all of a sudden is because it's like it won't Cap's necessarily his place to say anything because he is because it won't necessarily because his hands are kind of tied because the military probably classified the whole doggone thing. And it's like he can't really tell him because he ain't military, and yet he was, and he kind of knew about it. But that's suddenly his motivation for suddenly turning on him and wanting to beat the living crap out of him. It's just like, I was like, you should talk. You're just tied the hands of every hero in the world and made them criminals because they didn't go along with some little piece of paper. I mean, it's just, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Up to Tony Stark, all the way up to the Endgame, when he laid down his life, he was he was, like I said, he was Marvel's greatest villain until he laid down his life. And that's what, to me, is just like, why does everybody like him so good? He was a villain. And I was just going to say, from seeing those movies, I will say, yes, Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, they were good movies. They were enjoyable movies. It's nowhere near as good as the DCEU. Nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as good. To me, it's just like a pale shadow. Somebody trying to be the DCEU, but not. And yet, like I said, somehow they were able to, through shenanigans, they were able to get their foot in the door and try to make more money than them. And it just bugged me. And I said, but I'm going to say this now. They're kind of just, and also in my personal opinion, they should have ended after Endgame because I tried watching, I watched No Way Home it stunk to me. I mean, other than seeing Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and all the old villains back from those movies, that was great. The one thing that I absolutely could not stand about it was the new characters. I couldn't stand Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I couldn't stand I couldn't stand the other characters. I just can't stand the Disney-fied Spider-Man stuff. I can't stand it. He's annoying as Spider-Man. Absolutely annoying. And to me, that's why I said. But the only part was it was good. It was good seeing the old characters again, but that wasn't nearly enough to make this a good movie. Not nearly enough to make this a good movie. And so to me, and then seeing what has been going on with Disney since then, with Marvel since then, with all the stuff they've been talking about. I mean, things are getting bad when the pro Marvel media that was up there vaulting them up like there was something great and all that. Good and well, things are getting bad when even the media is turned on them and talk about this stinks and that stinks and this is horrible and that's horrible. And I think the last time I heard them say anything good about him was a Spider-Man movie that they didn't even sorry about that. We kind of had some technical difficulties there for a bit, but it's bad when the latest one they actually give some good reviews to, except for one that I heard movie stunt, was that Into the Spider-Verse movie, whatever the new Spider-Verse movie that came out earlier this year. Things were bad when that one was getting better praise than some of the MCU Disney produced stuff lately. I mean, that's just sad. And like I said, I heard one bad review about that saying it stunk. But I've heard more bad reviews lately about Marvel stuff like Secret Invasion. And I'm going to say this upcoming Marvel's movie looks like an absolute joke, which I think is what they're going for. And Quantum Mania, which I think just was like, right? It's just like, and it's just sad. I mean, it's just really, really sad. And it's just, what started off as something good turned into some way of destroying the competition. And now, because of mess they've been doing with the movies and everything, it's just turned into an absolute joke, and it's turned into a big steaming pile. And my question is, was sabotaging DC worth all this? No, it wasn't, because there you are being the top dog, and now because of your hubris, you're not good anymore. And I'm also take time to say this: the Cube Zone, your question, I'm not answering that. That has nothing to do with the subject of this show. I'm not going to answer that. I'm sorry. But it's just sad, and now DC is basically about to reboot everything. And I don't know what. I still kind of have mixed feelings about what DC is about to do with this. I mean, I've heard good things about the new Blue Beetle movie, the Flash movie. They said that they's trying to. I mean, it barely was in the theater anytime before they start throwing it out on the home media. Of course, I'm gonna say this: they don't think that the spin they put on this is like, oh, this, that, and they try to say, oh, it's a bad movie. I was just. Had they never thought about for a second that some folks can't afford to go see this? I mean, there's still folks out there probably a little bit kind of nervous about going out to movie theaters. Have you thought about that? And they thought about the fact that if some folks can't afford to pay exorbitant movie prices to go out and see this kind of thing. Have they thought about it? They don't think about it. No, they're just going to spend it as Marvel rules, DC drools. They're just going to say, why are they still making movies? They're just going to say that. The same thing can be said of Marvel. Why are they still making this? Because they ain't. The last several things have been stink bombs from them. And I'm surprised with this Blue Beetle movie, they didn't say, oh, this movie was a mitigated disaster. But hey, it beat the Barbie movie, didn't it? It beat the Barbie movie, didn't it? Folks saying, oh, it came in under what projections were. DC said basically that was because of Hurricane Hillary out in California. I was like, well, you can't go to a movie theater in the middle of wherever category Hurricane Hillary was. You can't do that. You just can't do that. And with this whole thing upcoming reboot of DC, we're just going to have, in the words of Mark Sisson, we're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, you don't know why this movie's going to go. You don't know how things are going to be with this movie. And particularly with this new Superman movie, I mean, they've got with all this writer and actor strike going on and everything, and basically bogging everything down, shutting everything down where they can't do anything. Of course, I'll get to a little bit more of that in a minute too, to show you how Disney's getting hurt on with that. You don't know what in the world these new things are going to, what this Creature Commando show is going to contain, what was going to be with this new Superman movie. The Superman movie is the one I'm most worried about, because I don't know if it's going to be good or not. I'm just glad they were able to cast their Superman and Lois Lane and possibly their Lex Luthor before the actor decided, like, hey, we want to go pick it. So I'm just glad they were able to get everything done when they need to get done. But it's just, with this strike going, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic of this new DCU and this new Superman movie. So it's, like I said, just gonna have to wait and see. And on the subject of the strike, which I'm just like, I roll my eyes every time I see somebody talking about it. Disney's kind of been feeling the hurt of it too, because now there's no new TV shows being made or produced, or movies being produced. So they're having to basically do something that I never thought they would ever do, and that is some of their streaming only stuff. They're actually putting it on Blu-ray and DVD and 4K. And it was just last week, in the last week or so, they announced that new Predator movie, Prey, it was on Hulu. October 3rd, that's going to hit Blu-ray DVD. And then they announced that WandaVision and Loki and the first two seasons of The Mandalorian are hitting Blu-ray and DVD also in the next several months this year. And that's like I said, you got to make your money somehow. I mean, when you ain't got nobody making any fresh new content, you've got to make your content more open to folks. So you got to find some way to make money and not do it illegally. You got to find some way to make their money for this studio and not do anything underhanded like they did in 2016, which I've already talked about. So best thing to do is just make everything available through home media. And I'll be glad to see some Mandalorian, because I've not watched that show yet. I've only seen it through like reaction channels, and from what I've seen, it's actually pretty good. I mean, I've actually been doing some catching up lately with Star Wars Rebels, and that's actually, to me, that's a good. That's better than I thought it was going to be. And I've seen seasons 1 and season 4 of it, and that's actually a good show. To me, it's actually well done Star Wars, and total garbage like Last Jedi and Solo were. So I'm definitely optimistic for some of these other live action shows. I ain't gonna see Andor's, and like it stinks. But yeah, it's a weird time for geekdom right now. It's a weird time for geek entertainment in terms of like movie, TV shows and stuff. But they're still coming out with sequel, and I mean, they're supposed to be doing like the original idea they had. It was supposed to be after Batman and Robin, where they were supposed to have Harley Quinn or Ms. Joker, they were calling back in the day, and Scarecrow. They're supposed to be doing those with more of the Tim Burton Batman. So hopefully it's good. And from what I heard, the first Batman that had Billy D. Williams on, it wasn't that good, even though Superman 78 was. And hopefully hopefully this sequel that they got coming out for that is as good as the first. Because this one was excellent. It was excellent. So I collected the whole series is very well done, and yeah, that's pretty good. But there's some other stuff there's a lot of good stuff coming out in terms of geeky news, and there's been some sad news lately too. There's been a lot of deaths and a lot of deaths. I think there's like some writers, artists that have died, and just in the last few days, um, wrestlers Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt have passed away out of nowhere. I mean, Terry Funk, he's on up in age and he wasn't doing well health wise, but he passed away on Wednesday. But on my birthday, on my actual birthday on Thursday, Bray Wyatt passed away at age of 36 with a heart attack. Come to find out, he had has had a certain virus that has swept over the world the last 3 years. I'm not going to say the name, but you know what it is. He wasn't WrestleMania this year. He was supposed to be on Sunday, but it was. So they rated a whole heart issue on the track to making a full recovery and everything. And he passed away. He had a heart attack and passed away. That was sad to hear. And then I found out just before we come on the air here that Bob Barker hosts The Price is Right, and opponent to Adam Sandler on Happy Gilmore had passed away at age 99, and I had no idea he got it. I had no idea that he was 99 years old. He was going to turn 100 this year, but yeah, he passed away just this morning. He passed away. So, and I said, it's just sad to hear all that happening all at once like that. But yeah, but on a lighter note, I have a lot of fun memories of watching Price is Right as a kid, growing up with him on it. And no, I'm not a fan of Drew Cherry hosting Price is Right. He's not that good at it. He's not good, but still, it's sad to hear he passed away. So he was probably the greatest Price is Right host there ever will be. It's not the same without him. It has never been. But on this a little bit lighter news here. New new as a for all the collectors out there, the pardon my nose, a little clogged right now. It released a new line of collector's edition figures. The first wave has come out in the last couple of weeks. You have first appearance from Action Comics #1. You have the Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott. Those figures are awesome, by the way. And then they announced the second wave is supposed to come out. It's supposed to have Sinestro, Firestorm, and Hawkman from 0 Hour. So they all look awesome. And they're also supposed to have out the new Anti-Monitor figure in the last few weeks. Of course, there are other places supposed to have out more along. So definitely be looking out for those. And as I said before, always puts out good quality stuff. They're supposed to be putting out a Jokerized Two-Face in the next month or so. So I've seen what that looks like. It essentially looks like a Two-Face Joker, which is pretty cool looking. So definitely be on the lookout for those. And live stream. I mean, it just some of this stuff has happened. A lot of cool stuff, a lot not so cool stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of. As a birthday, my birthday was great, and had a really good time, had a really fun time. Me and my wife had a lot of fun together. It was very, very, very fun and very tiring at the same time. So yeah, I've been taking it easy. I guess that's all for this edition of Mr. J's Geek Comments Below. You have any comments to leave in the comments below? And y'all have a good evening. I'll see y'all later.